It is a Saturday, one day delayed due to travel snafus. Fenway Rundown. I'm Chris Cotillo, Sean McAdam here. We are both back in our respective home studios. That has been the case for a little while with Sean. For me, I've been on the West Coast for more than a week as the Red Sox played in Arizona and Sacramento. And we'll get to the Sacramento series, the opener of the Yankee series, which was last night as we record this Saturday late morning, heading into game 2 of what is a super crucial series. But we'll start here, Sean. The Red Sox, a little bit here, kind of spinning in place. They have, got off to a good start in Sacramento. Two really, really good wins 7-0, 6-0, a tough loss in the finale Wednesday, kind of boring, quiet loss last night to the Yankees. And today, as we sit here, Max Fried against Brian Bayo in just a few hours at Fenway. Your state of the team at this point, Sean?
Yeah, not good enough for this time of year. 6-7 in the last 13, including some difficulty at home, not starting, but more recently, the Friday night loss to the Yankees in game 1 of the weekend series. And then even dating back to the last homestand, losing to some teams that they should not be losing to. They don't have to play 800 ball here down the stretch, but it would behoove them to play above 500, particularly when you look at how hot some of the teams gaining ground behind them are, notably the Texas Rangers and Seattle Mariners. Mariners have pulled even with Houston for the lead, and the Rangers are nipping at not only their heels, but those of the Red Sox as well. So um, I still think the Red Sox are in good shape. They're still in the playoff structure, as they say around the hockey playoffs. But they had better kind of pick it up at least a little bit and get back to at least playing above 500 here to ward off any challenges from behind.
Yeah, I mean, there are 14 to go. Is that right?
Yep.
And so the numbers are this: they're 4.5 back in the American League East. They are a game and a half behind the Yankees for that top wild card spot. But interestingly, a number that has shrunk really significantly in the last 72 hours. The lead for the third wild card spot, and just to be in, is only 3 games over the Rangers. The Red Sox at 81 and 67, the Rangers at 78 and 80. As you mentioned, the Rangers have won 5 in a row. The Mariners have won 7 in a row. And the Rangers going up against the Mets, who cannot win a game right now. We saw them, beat DeGrom or win with DeGrom last night in Queens. So that number being 3, I think should be maybe a little more concerning than people imagine. I mean, yes, it is a lot on paper, 3 games with 14 to go. But you are a bad weekend and a good weekend for them in New York, away from that being one, and then 1 game over, the final 10 or 12 or whatever it is. I mean, that anything can happen there. So
Yeah, and the thing to be concerned about there is that they lose a tiebreaker with the Rangers, having
right.
lost the season series to them. We could say now that really the Yankee lead is a half game, not a game and a half, because the Red Sox do win a tiebreaker there.
Hmm.
So if they were to finish tied, the Red Sox get home field advantage against the Yankees. That's no small matter here in the final uh, couple of weeks. But the prospect of having to go play at Texas or worse, get nudged out altogether because of the tiebreaker. Remember, they don't play off for playoff spots anymore. So there's no one game to determine that last wild card. If Texas pulls even with them and finishes with the same record, then the Rangers go to the wild card and the Red Sox go home. So that's another thing to factor in. I believe they tied the season series with Seattle,
Yep.
and I think the first tiebreaker is record in your division. Is
Hmm.
that correct?
Yes.
So, but a lot of math to do there, and it's probably too early to start looking at that because you're playing a lot of games against your division opponents down the stretch. Red Sox have three in Tampa. They've got three in Toronto. They've got two more with the Yankees. So they've got eight of their 16 games remaining against teams in their own division. And I'm sure the Mariners have a similar number with Houston and Texas and other teams out west. So a little too early to get into that, but the fact that Texas beat them in the season series is no small matter, or may not be a small matter if they finish with the same record.
And some very important series coming up out west. The Astros host the Rangers and the Mariners on an upcoming homestand. So obviously a lot to figure out there. You know, that works in the Red Sox favor in a way. On those days, you're guaranteed someone's going to lose. So that race is super, super tight. Houston and Seattle at 80 and 68. The Rangers at 78 and 72 games back. That's, you know, anyone's race out west. You just hope that the carnage doesn't affect you for that second wild card spot or that third wild card spot. More importantly, I think, that's still obviously in the balance until something's clinched. That's the case. Let's go back. We'll talk about Sacramento kind of in order, and then we'll get to last night. Sacramento series takeaways. Game one, balanced offensive attack. I know it feels like forever ago now, but this is where we are. Uh, Garrett Crochet pitches super well, seven shutout innings. Looks like his dominant self, which is, it's against a lineup that you look at the record as we sit here, the A's are 68 and 80, but they're a team that, they do have a lot of good young hitters from Kurtz to Wilson to Langoliers, who we saw homer the last day, to Lawrence Butler, who was a hero that last game. So, not the worst lineup you've ever seen. Crochet pitch as well. Game two, which I think we'll hone in on most here, Connelly Early comes in and absolutely dazzles and dominates. 5 innings, 11 strikeouts, and a pretty impressive performance all the way around. And then in the last game, kind of a frustrating one. Runners in scoring position issues come back. Tolley's not great. Harrison's pretty good, and Aroldis Chapman with the inevitable blip. Red Sox take 2 out of 3. I think obviously the biggest development there, Early and Harrison joining Tolley in this next wave. And also, when we last recorded, we talked about how short they were on starting pitching, and that's when Dustin May was not yet on the IL. Since then, him and Brendan Bernardino out of the bullpen both go on the IL. And so, at this point, it's, not that Dustin May and Brendan Bernardino are Crochet and Chapman for you in their roles, but they are guys that are on this team for a reason. And when they're not available, it means someone else has to be. Will those options be better in the case of May? Very possibly. In the case of Bernardino, Murphy's been okay too. So it's just, the types of losses that continues to thin it out. What are your thoughts on Early, Harrison, Tolley, how this picture is playing out right now?
Yeah, I couldn't be more impressed with what you saw from Connelly Early in his debut. Not known as necessarily a strikeout guy. In fact, the 11 strikeouts that he posted in his major league debut were more than he had ever had at the professional level. That speaks to his ability to adapt and pitch to a lineup and not be shaken by the big stage and making his debut. Maybe 10,000 people in the stands in
Yeah.
a
How
metropolis
big is that
in
stage is the question.
Sacramento is not really the big stage, but it is against a major league lineup and highly impressive. Just showed a lot of poise a number of times with runners on base. He was able to register multiple strikeouts to get out of any kind of jam. So the fact that you now have three arms to mold together to get those 4 and 5 spots attacked gives you some flexibility. Maybe you can, if you're looking to limit Tolley's workload, you could piggyback him with one of those two guys. And the fact that Harrison um, and Early pitched as well as they did out there bodes well for the next time through the lineup where they're going to be facing the Athletics again. It'll be interesting to see, even a seasoned veteran pitcher does not like to see the same lineup twice in a week because they've seen everything you throw. They can make adjustments. There's lots of video to study, and you can bet that the Athletics will be doing that with all three of those young guys that they got to look at, and it'll be up to them to
If their
counter
owners
and
if their owner's willing to pay for video scouting, that's up in the balance too, though.
sure.
Yeah. Um, Here's my prediction on how this whole thing shakes out. I think that uh as good as each of them were in their debut, and I know Toley's had back to back, ones where he was hit hard, two home runs in two innings in Sacramento. I think the Red Sox are going to be very cognizant, as we talked about innings limits on both of them, whether that's a hard cap or just playing it safe down the stretch. And I can see Early and Toley both factoring in the playoffs. Um, I think because of the innings situation and the fact that you don't need to worry about that as much with Harrison, who has, big league time over 3 seasons. I think he starts games from here on out, and you have Toley and Early in shorter stints, maybe out of the bullpen, get big outs here and there, maybe some piggyback situations, do what they did the other day with Toley. I think if you're looking to get five out of one of these guys, they're going to be looking to do it with Harrison. And the buildup is the reason why they couldn't the other day. They stretched him out to three. Now maybe you can get him to 4 or 5 next week. The other thing is they don't need this spot to come up very often down the stretch, which is, we only have 14 left, as we talked about. So Cora said he wants to keep Giolito, Bayo, and Crochet on 4 days rest. That is obviously, Giolito's preference. He said that a lot. Mapping it out, I looked at it the other day. They have to get out of the big three of young lefties or whoever else in a bullpen game. They have to do that, 5 times in the final 15. Tuesday against the A's is open because the big three of Giolito, Bayo, and Crochet will not be available. And then Giolito can pitch the second game, Bayo the third, Crochet the opener in Tampa, and then the weekend in Tampa becomes, open. Then they get to Toronto and they can line up as I'm sure they'll want to, Giolito, Bayo, Crochet, and
And
then
you've
come
got the
home
off
for
day on the Monday before the
yeah,
start of the Toronto
and
series.
then, you come back home against Detroit, and there are games to cover there. You can have Giolito go in the opener, and then that lines up Crochet, Bayo, and Giolito for the wild cards. So I think that, this is probably the way they're going to look to do it. You get even now three more starts out of Giolito, three more out of Bayo, three more out of Crochet, and then fill in the blanks the other 5 days, whether you can get Harrison to give you five on Tuesday, whether you can give, a Tolley and early piggyback, whether you can, figure it out. I know their star opener, Brennan Bernardino, is now on the IL, but there are ways to figure this out. They only need to do it about a third of the time, the rest of the way. Um, and also do it in a way where they're not having either of their big series, the New York series or the Blue Jays series, having this factor in. And that's what the off days give you. And you know what? Like, no matter what you're doing on those days, it's probably giving you a better chance to win than Dustin May, no matter what it is. So, you never root for an injury, but in this case, he was a guy that you could see them going in this route, even if he wasn't hurt.
Yeah, and it's more likely that we see him as a multi-inning or bulk reliever down the stretch than it is having him get the ball to start a game. I think they would rather take their chances with one of the kids here. I agree. And the hope is that some of those teams chasing you kind of inevitably cool off a little bit. Seattle 7 in a row, Texas 5 in a row. Texas has been the hottest team in the American League for the last week and a half. Can that continue? If it doesn't, it allows you to get your pitching in order that last week. The last thing you want to do is having to use your big three in that final weekend just to get into the playoffs. And then you're left scrambling when you get to game one of the wild card series. And you look at the possibility of maybe having to start one of those kids in game one. And in a worst case scenario, you don't get to Garrett Crochet in those 3 games, which reminds me a little bit of 2005, where the Red Sox had to scramble down the stretch to get into the postseason and never had Kurt Schilling in that brief division series against the White Sox. Um, you don't want to be in that situation again, obviously, with your ace not getting the ball in the playoff series and your season ends before he can pitch again.
Right. All right, let's get to what you wrote yesterday for your Friday notebook. The 6 questions the Red Sox must answer before the start of the postseason. This is something we've talked about and debated a little bit on here, a little bit, just in private conversation. What stands out to you as the biggest thing they must figure out down the stretch here?
Well, we've been talking about it. It's pitching and it's the back end of the rotation, and how do they glue that together for the final 14 games? That much is obvious. But there are a couple of others, including what do they do at second base? Uh, we're sort of presuming that they're going to get Willie Abreu
Hmm.
back soon, maybe even for the Sacramento series. Yesterday, Alex Cora had him ramped up to about 85% intensity. Said once he gets to 90, he'll be good to go. But obviously, they're going to be careful with him and make sure that that calf muscle issue does not get aggravated. So health is one thing. The other is second base. And to me, a third is what do they do in the leadoff spot against lefties? Um, there aren't a lot of good choices for any of those issues. Um, David Hamilton continues to disappoint. Made an error last night. Has not been good in base running of late. 3 for 6 in his last 6 stolen base attempts. Really not doing much offensively. The at bats are a little bit better in the last month, but he's still hitting 204.
Hmm.
And yet, without Ceddanne Rafaela back, without Wilyer Abreu back, and the need to play Ceddanne Rafaela in center because you're thin in the outfield, you're already starting Nate Eaton in right field, which is not optimum. Um, they've got to figure out, if Abreu comes back and is healthy, do they go with one of the bench guys in the outfield and play Rafaela at second base at all? Can they trust David Hamilton? Can they trust Romy Gonzalez? How much does Gonzalez's knee factor in to be able to move around well at second base? And then the leadoff guy, when it's not Duran against a righty, as it was last night, when you're facing, as they're going to today, a pretty good lefty in Max Fried, not a lot of good options. It'll probably be Nate Eaton at the top of the lineup today, or maybe they'll have Gonzalez in there because Cora said he was expected to return. But what do they do there in the playoffs? Because if they face the Yankees, let's face it, they're going to get both Fried and Rodon in 2 of those 3 games. So it's something you have to address right out of the chute.
Yeah, I mean, I think, a big one here is just the lineup in general. We saw that in a big game last night against Heel. Um, I don't have it in front of me, but think about, Nate Eaton, obviously Homer, of course, but you think about like who you just don't trust in a lineup in a big game. Nate Eaton, no disrespect to him. David Hamilton, the same thing. I
Like
know he had
so,
a pretty good road trip. Nick Sogard, I'm not comfortable trotting any of those guys out in a playoff game for sure. Um, Gonzalez against righties, the same thing. And then, let's get to 3 guys who are actually, theoretical contributors in your lineup that you're not getting really anything from. Obviously, Rafaela, and we've talked about this since the All-Star break, has not been able to give you anything offensively. Yoshida hitting fifth is in the exact same boat. And the last week, 10 days, we've seen, Nathaniel Lowe, who was really good very early in his Red Sox career, 12 game stretch now. He's 7 for 39, 16 strikeouts, with a 571 OPS over 12 games. 4 games hitless now. That is an 0 for 16 with 8 strikeouts. He's riding, and he's hitting third and fourth, and Yoshida's hitting fifth. Obviously, Abreu is going to help this, and so in a playoff game against a good pitcher, whoever it is, you're betting on, if it's a righty, you're betting on Duran, Abreu, Bregman, and Story to kind of produce runs for you, and then hoping someone else can do something. Like that's a tough place to
that
be.
the bottom 5 of the order right now is not terribly productive.
No, at
And there's
all.
a big drop off, and you're going to be facing, it goes without saying, quality pitching staffs. This is not Sacramento or even a struggling below 500 team like Arizona. you're going to be facing a team like the Yankees that can throw, I would imagine their top three would be Fried, Rodon, and Luis Heel, who pitched around some difficulty last night, but did not give up a hit.
Hmm.
6 innings. That's a pretty formidable front three to have to beat, particularly if you're doing it on the road in the Bronx.
And you know what? This lefty facing lefties, which two of those three are, or I know he got kind of banged up last night, but Scooble eventually, whatever. You're still like you can eliminate Abreu from that equation as an impact bat coming back because this is Alex Cora, this is the Red Sox. He will start Nate Eaton over Willier Abreu in a playoff game. That's just the reality of it, right? And so, um,
I'm not convinced of that.
we, it's just that's how they do it.
Well, it's how they've done it in the regular season. It's not how they have been had to do it in a, lose 2 games and you go home for the winner.
Yeah.
I think that Abreu's defensive contributions are important, even if he gives you nothing offensively against a lefty. He is far, far superior to Eaton, and his home run notwithstanding last night, Eaton is not exactly a big threat with the bat. I disagree with you. I think we would see Abreu in right field against lefties.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see in a week or two when, they start kind of cranking out those playoff test lineups. But, right now the point is that when you look 1 through 26, it gets really short really quick and the reinforcements aren't coming like there's not a ton of them. You probably will be back, but um, none of the pitchers that are missing are getting back. The other thing as we close out, you wrote about in that column something I wanted to write about the other day. Justin Slayton's struggles have been pronounced since he came back. He's a guy that they cannot trust right now.
Yeah.
And that is a huge development because we looked at him and everybody looked at him as a capital S savior, a guy to pair with Wilson and Chapman and Whitlock. And there you go, Justin Slayton's Justin Slayton. He's not right. And you can't throw him out there in the seventh inning of a one-run game.
Yeah, and that leaves them, obviously you lean heavily on your best guys in a short playoff series, and they would. If they had to pitch Chapman in all 3 games, they would. They're not going to save him for next February. So you go with your best, but at some point you need more than 3 high-end, high-leverage guys to trust with games on the line. We know how often postseason games tend to turn and change hand in the seventh and eighth innings. And it doesn't do you any good to have the best closer in the game in Aroldis Chapman if you can't get him the lead for the ninth inning. And Whitlock and Wilson are trustworthy, but you may need a third guy. And who is that right now?
Right.
You noted Slayton's numbers are not good since he's returned. He's got an ERA of, I don't know, 6 something. He's given up something like 11 hits in 5 2/3 innings. And that's not the Justin Slayton that the Red Sox were hoping to get back.
He would absolutely love Sean if he had an ERA that was 6 something over the 6 games since he returned. It is 11.81.
Okay. Yeah,
Once you know what though, once it's above like 5, it's all the same.
right.
But the
Exactly.
FIP is only 7, so
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. But no, that's an issue, one of many. As we come down the stretch, Red Sox Yankees today and tomorrow. We'll have it all covered for you where on MassLive.com.